Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Talking Tradesman podcast. With me in the studio today, I have Chris Ryan. Now, Chris has got a few different elements to his persona, as it were. So Chris is a fellow painter and decorator, a qualified psychotherapist, and the inventor,
founder.
That's the word I was looking for.
Co-founder.
I have to say of Handily, which is something we're going to explore all of those conversations. But first of all, Chris, massive thank you for giving up your time and coming and sitting down with me, mate. Really appreciate it.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Like I said to you when I showed up, I've been aware of you from the start when you very first started. And I enjoy the podcast. I listen to it often, and like I said, the last episode with Cam, I was like, "Wow, this is getting good."
Really appreciate that, mate. Cool. It's great. It's been nice to the feedback that you gave me before we started recording. It's nice to hear because I'm conscious of trying to improve. So to hear somebody say that they've noticed an improvement, it's nice to hear.
Have you been training as a therapist?
No.
Okay.
I was intending to.
Okay.
So my own journey, we don't get too much about me here, Chris, but my own journey. So I went through my own mental health discovery off the back of a divorce. I'm going to do a real highlight reel here. There was a lot of self-education, so I jumped into education informally. So I studied psychology, evolutionary psychology, philosophy, Buddhism, all sorts, informally. Decided to take it formal and undertook a BSc honours degree in psychology. While I was doing that, I decided I was going to go towards counselling and therapy, which was the direction I was heading. And somehow I've ended up on a fucking podcast. But that was the intention. While I was doing the degree, decided to try and get some experience. So started volunteering at Samaritans. While I was volunteering at Samaritans, realised that there was a huge issue around mental health in construction. And came up with the idea of starting a podcast.
Yeah.
Further down the line, because I was doing a psychology degree part-time through Open Uni, so I got 4 years into 6 and then realised that actually getting a psychology degree would do me absolutely nothing in terms of counselling and therapy. So decided to cut my losses and stop it there. So that was the journey, as it were.
I ask because I notice the way you are with people, you have those skills.
I appreciate that.
Like the way you're asking the questions, the way you're listening to people. I thought, he might be training. But
Samaritans. No, I would say Samaritans trained me in how to listen.
Yeah.
Which most people who would listen to this who haven't been through that training would think, what are you on about? You got ears. No, you can hear. But listening is a skill. And Samaritans taught me the skill of listening, which was something I didn't know I hadn't got until I did the training. Until you're put in those situations where you're dealing with people at crisis and all you are allowed to do is listen, to learn to listen effectively, it was game changer. I've brought a lot of those skills into this. There's somebody else, another former guest who I won't name because confidentiality, but has decided to do voluntary work as a Samaritan themselves. And since doing the training, has messaged me and gone, mate, I can hear it now. When you're talking on your podcast, I can hear the training. You know? Yeah, so that would potentially be that. But in answer to your question, Chris, it has always been the long-term goal. I would like to get into counselling and therapy.
Okay. Well, this is keeping you from that because this is going quite well.
Yes. Yeah, there is
Which
that.
Is a good thing.
Yeah, but I would like to, even if I didn't get to a point of practicing, I would like to learn more. I've got a real thirst for knowledge, skills. So just having that skill set, because I believe all of that kind of training, counselling, therapy, being able to understand yourself and other people, you can translate that into life, into business, into family.
Although saying that, obviously being a trained therapist, there does seem to be there's quite a defining line between your personal life and your work life. It's almost like you put that hat on. Do you know what I mean? And when it's your personal life, it's actually quite harder to apply those skills.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of like that. But there's a different distance, right? It's like with your clients, it sounds quite harsh, but ultimately what's going on in their life is not going to affect your life, right?
Mm.
That's actually a good thing, because that
Okay.
helps the therapy happen. Because one of the reasons why people, I suppose, can't go to the people around them is because they're too close,
Yep.
right? They need that distance. So yeah, just in your own personal life, you also don't have that distance.
Mm.
So it's not always easy to apply what you're even an expert at doing in the room.
I understand.
Yeah, you're a human as well, right?
To be honest, Chris, the reason I went to volunteer at Samaritans was not because I wanted to be a Samaritan. Full honesty, it's not because I actually thought I want to go and do that. Because at that point in my life, I didn't realise I needed that purpose. It wasn't a box that I'd ticked. Yeah. The reason that I volunteered at Samaritans was because, and this is just being brutally honest, it was from a selfish perspective, because I threw myself into psychology and training, and I had a concern that because at this point I was fully focused on I want to get into counselling and therapy, and I had a concern that actually would I be able to listen to somebody, counsel and deliver therapy and not take that home? So I didn't know whether the weight of other people's trauma, or whether I could process that and leave it, or process and take it home. Because from a selfish perspective, I thought, I'm not going to do that to my family. I'm not going to go to work, as it were, to earn a living, to then take that home and be a different person for my own family.
Yeah.
So stepping into Samaritans was my way of exploring that.
Yeah.
Then when I did that and I realised that it gave me this purpose, it changed the game completely. But I had to do it to know it. Prior to doing it, I didn't know. I'd never done charity work to that extent. I'd done little charity things, and you play a charity football game, or you do a charity cycle or something. But to actually help people in crisis, I'd no idea what that would do for me in terms of giving me that purpose outside of business, because I've spent my whole life in business. Everything has been business, profit, financial gain, whether for myself or for my family. But it's always been that. And then stepping out of that and going to Samaritans, volunteering, giving up my time and genuinely helping people at their lowest of lows gave me this purpose I didn't know that I was lacking until I discovered it. That makes sense?
Of course it makes sense. Yeah. Tough. And it's probably the if you're going to test that thing, that's probably the place to test it.
I'm extreme in what I do. So if I was going to test it, it was going to be off the deep end, because I thought if I can be that person that can essentially listen to some horrific things, and we did over the phone, listen to some horrific stories, crises and events that were unfolding, but then be able to finish shift, offload that. They've got a great system at Samaritans. The support's incredible. But then to go home and be normal, not be haunted. I didn't know whether I could do it till I did it.
And how was it?
Fine.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things I've done in my life, Chris, to be fair, where I've recognised I've got that trait. I can switch off. I'm very logical, I guess, in my thinking. Polar opposites. I've mentioned it a few times on the podcast, but I worked as a bailiff for 4 years.
Okay.
Same thing, in the polar opposite. So I could do that job, go home, and it was like, how do you sleep at night? Absolutely fucking fine. So I could do that job and turn off, but then that plays out in reverse. So helping people in crisis, listening to some horrific things, trying to help people, I could also turn off from that. And to an extent, this as well. This is an extension of that to me. The reason I started the podcast is because I felt that I could actually directly impact and help more people within our industry through doing this than I could through doing that. I never intended on stopping volunteering when I started that. I thought, this will be me now. Like, I'll do this for 30 years, 40 years, till I can't. But this has taken over the time that I had allocated to that. Yeah. And I genuinely feel I can do more help as an individual through this platform than what I could do in that. I'd love to go back to it one day. I'd love to go back to volunteering there.
You said you turn it off. Is it turning it off, or is it more like you just can you can put it in its place and it stays in its place.
Yeah, that's probably a better description.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's being able to understand a situation. I think you touched on it for what it is externally. That's not me. Like as tragic as that situation is for that individual, it's not me. It's not my family. It's not my home.
Yeah.
You can empathise, but you don't carry it with you. You don't carry the weight, essentially. You know, when people talk about their traumas, sometimes it can feel like they are passing you the metaphorical boulder. Here's this boulder that I've been carrying my whole life. I'm offloading that. I'm passing the boulder to you along with all the weight. I think when you put yourself in these positions, you've then got to be able to rationalise it and place the boulder back down, not carry it on with you, you know. I've seen it happen. I've seen people and they take on the trauma and the pain from other people, which I don't think you could do something like this, or certainly Samaritans. I saw people come and go. I was there for 18 months and some people just, it wasn't for them. You know, they tried it, but they would get emotional. They would get upset by the things they were hearing, which is absolutely fine. All credit to those people for trying it.
Yeah.
How's about yourself? Why we're here to talk about you?
Yes.
You've sat straight into therapist mode, haven't you, yourself? And I'm going to unpick this person.
Yeah, you're going to have to watch me because this is my skill set.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes me good at what I do is that I talk. I'm really interested in people. Right.
I'm going to end up offloading a load here, aren't I? This is what's going to happen on this episode. But I do want to find out about you, Chris. So I want to find out, because you're a painter and decorator.
Yes, that's my trade, yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
Oh, God. On my own, set out on my own probably 2016, so roughly 10 years ago.
Okay, good stint.
Yeah. But my stepdad is a painter and decorator. So I suppose I learnt a bit from him but mostly I was working on sites, just labouring, especially throughout like university and things like that. Whenever I had a break, I'd go and do a bit on site. But then when I've sort of, what am I going to do? I want to go off on my own. And I thought decorating, that's the thing I can do. And so I just went at it, set myself up and learned as I went a lot, sort of blagged it quite a lot. But yeah, it's been about 10 years and it's been good to me. It's been really good to me, actually. It's given me a lot, but it's also helped my family as well.
Let's pause this episode there briefly to say a big thank you to this episode's sponsors, Brewers Decorators Centres, and let you guys know about a few of the great deals they've got on in October. Starting with, for every purchase of AF1 in October, Brewers are going to be donating £2 to save the Rhino. You can save £12 on 7.5 litres of Johnson's Cover Plus vinyl mat in brilliant white. They have 40% off 10 litres of Armstead Trade Contract Mat, and you can also save 20% off Isomat bath and kitchen paints. With that in mind, big thank you to Brewers again for your continued support. Now let's get back to the episode.
Because I could give the old man work. My brother-in-law, he's worked for me as well. My brother, he currently works with me. I'm trying to give it to him now. I'm trying to...
You know this goes out, don't you? I thought you were about to say I'm trying to get rid of him then.
Couldn't get rid of him. No way. He'd get rid of me sooner. I said I'm supposed to be in charge, but of course he's my older brother, and so doesn't listen to me much.
So is it the two of you? You work with your brother mainly?
Yeah, I work with my brother mainly. That's why I'm trying to get away from it. I'm trying to get away from it.
Okay.
Move into the therapy more full time because the therapy's taken off. The private practice is really taken off, but it's difficult to get away from the decorating game. I think you enjoy it, don't you? I've heard you say that before.
Yeah.
I'm the same.
I do. Yeah. Do you know what? I had this conversation with my son last week because I moaned about something and he looked at me. I was like, why have you encouraged me into this if you don't like it? I was like, no, I do. I do like it. I like the job. It's like anything, mate. I'm very critical of myself and I put myself under a lot of pressure quite often. Deadlines, timescales and quality. That's what I don't like. So I don't like some of the pressure that I put on myself. But if I was left to just do the job without the pressure and the profit lines to worry about, enjoy the trade.
Yeah. Well, you need a bit of stress, don't you? Like, some stress is good. Really.
I agree.
Can't just be stressless. But you got your boy with you. My boy's been with me as well. So I've got 2 young children, but I've also got an older son as well.
Okay.
He's 21 in May.
Not too far then. So my lad's 18.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And he's come into the trade. He's trying to figure it out. But I don't know. Are you encouraging your boy in? Because I'm actually feeling like I want to push my boy in a different direction.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I'm encouraging him in because of who he is and where he was. And what I mean by that is he didn't really know what he wanted to do. I've never tried to push him in terms of like, you must come and do this family business. You need to do this. But he was drifting a little bit. I mean, he went through school, and I always said to him, I said, look, if you want to go to uni, do, but know why you're going. Don't just go to go. And he worked that out for himself and decided he wanted to do. So the way he came into the business, he was going to be an electrician. So he decided that he wanted to get into the trades, liked the look of the trades. He's a little bit like me, doesn't like being told what to do. So the structure of the building industry suits him quite well, because self-employment, I think, is, it's going to be his direction. Decided he wanted to do something a bit different to his dad and was going to be an electrician. Went off to college, did the first year, hated it, and was a little bit lost in what to do. And we were on holiday at the time, having this conversation, a bit of an open heart moment. And I just said, look, while you don't know what to do, come and work with me. Just come and work with me, no pressure, see what you think. If you like it, the way I look at it, Chris, I've been in business 24 years now, which is frightening. So I took over my business at 17. I'm 41. So I've got it in my mind that this is my last 10 years on the tools. Just because my own personal experience of the trade has been watching, I'm third generation. So my granddad started the business. My dad was a decorator as well. And I watched them, particularly my dad, I watched him work too long to the point where, knees gone, back's gone, shoulders gone. I don't want to get to that, mate.
Yeah.
I've said a few times, the way I see it is, although I'm not particularly old for the trade, I'm high mileage because I started at 17. My dad was an accountant. He started in the trade at 30. My granddad was in the army. He started in the trade at 30, 31. So they, by the time they got to like 60, had done 30 years. I'm at 24 years now.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious in terms of, I don't want to get to the point where my knee has gone or my back has gone.
Yeah.
And then I'm stuck with that for the rest of my life. So I've given myself 50. So when I said to my son, I was like, look, there's a ready-built business that's very well established, and in the next 10 years, I want out.
Yeah.
And if that comes sooner, it comes sooner. But there's a business there for you if you enjoy it. So come and see what you want, see if you like it. And he did. So he came and worked for me for a bit. He was like, actually, I don't know why I remember him saying, he was like, I don't know what, I had this vision in my head of what it was, and it isn't. And I do enjoy it. And so he's been with me 18 months now. It has its moments, obviously working with family, but by and large, it's a positive.
Yeah, I know all about that. The moments working with family can be difficult, can't it?
It can. The way that I've handled it personally, and I'm not saying this is right because everyone's different, but myself, when he started, I basically said, look, Alfie, while you work for me, not with me, while you work for me, this is the way it goes down. When we get to the stage where we work with each other, different. But while you work for me, the minute we leave the house in the morning, you're my apprentice. And the minute we get home at night, you're my son. And they don't cross. When we get home, I don't want to hear about work and I don't want to talk. If I tell you off at work, that doesn't translate into home. And don't get me wrong, it's not as easy as that all the time.
Of course, yeah.
But we work on it. And that's the way it's been. I've treated him like any other apprentice from day one. There's been various things, like various concessions that I won't allow him just because he's my son. And it's one of those things, I think any relationship, father-son relationship, boss-employee relationship, they try and push boundaries. They want to know what they can do, what they can't do and get away with. And we've gone through that. So we've found a decent little groove now, and I've got high hopes for him, to be fair. He's a good, really good painter.
Yeah.
You know, he's 18 months in now. I could trust him to do a room. In fact, I have. He's done his own jobs where I've put him in the room and I've gone, right, you know, basic rooms, you know, straightforward re-emulsions and minimal prep. But he can do that to a professional standard now. So, yeah.
So, I suppose, I think where I'm thinking now is obviously what you and I are both concerned with is, mental health in the trades. And it seems to be a thing, right, to say the least.
Yes.
So that's one of the aspects of sort of wanting to push my boy away a little bit. I can't say that there's anything sort of like specific, right, that I would be worried about with him, but just that sort of, I don't know, like this can be tough, and there can be moments where I do think that there are things in our trade, in our industry that exacerbate some problems, so especially the financial instability that can come, sometimes work's there, sometimes it's not. I think it's not everybody is set up and fortunate enough to be in a position where the work's constantly flowing, they've got that reputation, they've got the client base, they don't have to worry. And I think when people get to that spot, it can be a lack of security can be very problematic. And I think that's something I'd want him to not have to deal with, basically.
I hadn't thought about that, Crazy being as I do this, but I hadn't thought about that. I think maybe because I've seen the side that I've seen, and I know my business model and how it's set up, and I'm quite confident that he can carry that on. And as well as that, I think one of the biggest things around mental health in construction for me is awareness. So not that you've got to be aware that there is an issue, but I mean like personal awareness. So being aware. So like if you made me aware, the industry you work in has got high rates of suicide, high mental health statistics that are negative. What I would do personally then is research why. What are the causal factors? What are the triggers? And then try and put things in place to mitigate that, which is what I think I've done naturally with my business anyway. I think, I don't know whether you'd agree with this, Chris. I mean, one of the statistics is that amongst the construction industry, the worst affected trades for suicide figures are actually decorators and plasterers. My deduction from that is that they're the finishing trades, so most likely to work on their own. However, also in painting and decorating businesses, a lot of people come into decorating businesses out of necessity rather than choice.
If you can piss, you can paint type thing.
There's that attitude.
Right.
But say, I don't know, you've worked in a job role for 10 years, you've been made redundant. Fuck, I've got no job. What do I do? Actually, I'm not a bad, I've painted my house, I've done this, I've done that. And not knocking the people that have started up that way, but I've sat down with a lot of them here that have. Not knocking it. However, when you start a business from a point of necessity rather than choice, you're on the back foot straight away. You're in the, I'm starting this business because I need money, I need work, I've lost my job. So you're starting it off already at a point of like trauma. It's like pressure. Whereas somebody, I believe, that has maybe done their training, has come into it through choice, has worked with a company and then decided, actually, they're going to roll the dice and go to business. I think they'd probably build a framework before going self-employed. Possibly the decorating industry has a higher rate of people that haven't got the framework when they come into business. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. It makes a lot of sense. And particularly that aspect that you're talking about in terms of like the isolation that can happen in the work. I thought you might start speaking about, do you know what though? It's not been my experience, but I see it a lot. It's sort of like a trope on social media about decorators liking a drink. And I thought you were maybe going to go in that direction and talk about that, because of course drink is going to exacerbate problems if you've got problems.
Do you know what it is? I'm going to be raw with you on this, Chris. I do believe that is a problem.
Yeah.
But I'm also conscious of the image of the industry, which I'm quite protective about.
Yeah.
So I try not to exasperate the stereotype.
Yes.
However, there's truth behind the stereotype in a lot of cases. I think the newer generations coming through are different, but certainly the older generation. I mean, look, you don't get a stereotype for no reason.
Yeah,
You don't. And there is, I think, construction as a whole, there's a big drink and drugs problem. You know, maybe in the decorating industry it's more drink, but, you know, you've also got, like, say, sorry to any of you guys that work in these trades, but, you know, you've got, like, scaffolders, ground workers, people, you know, bags of Charlie. Mm-hmm. There's these preconceptions, and they come from somewhere. I mean, fuck it, listen, I've been around it. I know that there's truth to it.
Yes.
So there is a big drink. The way I see it, Chris, again, you can agree or disagree or add your input. I don't see that there's one problem. I see it's a perfect storm. It's not that it's the drink or the isolation or the financial insecurity. It's all of it.
Yeah.
You get all of it in one.
Yeah. Have you come across a book called The Boy Crisis?
No.
It's by a guy called Will Farrell. No, Warren Farrell. Will Farrell does movies, doesn't he?
I was going, Will Farrell's like Alf, isn't he?
Yeah. He's a mental health, what is he? I suppose social psychologist, Warren Farrell, The Boy Crisis. I was listening to it recently. And there's a chapter in there where he's got this checklist of all of these issues. He's basically saying, you know, are you somebody who? Are you somebody? Are you somebody? And he does about, I don't know, 30, 40 of them. He does loads of them. And at the end he says, if you have scored or if you've said yes to like 7 or more of these, then you should seek professional help. But it's kind of to that point of what you're saying, and that's the point that he's reinforcing. This is the area of the book that deals with suicide and suicide rates in men, young men and older men. And he's highlighting that point is that it is a perfect storm. There aren't these just isolated issues that we can point to. Unfortunately, it's really. Can I swear on your podcast?
Yeah, mate.
It's really
if you haven't noticed, I've done a lot of it already. So yeah, swearing's absolutely fine.
Went over my head. It's fucking complicated, man. Like
it is
really.
Do you know what, Chris? I've sat here with a few people, and I've asked a lot of people. In the early days, I used to ask the question to everyone who say, "What do you think? Why do you think that construction is so adversely affected compared to other industries?"
Yeah,
and it's the same things in rotation that come up. The same flashpoints, and they're all true. But then there's that, like, but what do we do about it? We can highlight all these things. We can say it's money, it's drink, it's drugs, it's insecurity, it's long working hours, it's working in isolation. And it is all of those things. But what do we do?
Perhaps there's a few more. I was interested to talk to you about some of these things as well.
Please, sir.
I think sometimes what we might not like to look at as people that are trying to help people that have troubles is that there's a nature that we're contending with as well. It's not just the environment, and that actually some people have a nature that predisposes them to being a certain way. And we can get into the sciences that sort of back that up, right, in terms of like personality, psychology, etc. But it's certainly my experience, and it's quite a sad thing. I don't like it, but it's something that I think I've come to realize through my private practice is that some people just suffer. They just are wired in that way, or more wired to being susceptible to it, whereas others just aren't, you know.
Do you believe in generational trauma?
As in like passed down?
Yeah.
That's tricky. I suppose I can follow it in the sense of, actually, I can back it up in that way as well. So I can definitely follow it in the sense of, you know, if I've been through something and that has sort of helped to shape me, my history has shaped me in a particular way, then I would treat my children in a particular way, and therefore, you know, the trauma is being passed, right? Or the effects of the trauma is being passed. But I don't know, do we, when we talk about that, do we mean like literally the trauma gets passed, or do we mean the effects of the trauma get passed?
I think the way that it's said and taken is that the trauma gets passed, but the truth is it's the effects. Because you can't pass a trauma, but you can pass the effects.
There's, what's that really? It was a popular book at the time. The Body Keeps the Score, right?
Yeah.
So the idea actually, and I think there was some, if I'm really poor memory of this book, but it was, I think there was some studies that were done that when they looked at countries where there had been like famine, for example, so like that sort of physical trauma, then children were physically affected by that trauma. It was sort of passed on into the body. I'm hazy on that, but I think pretty certain that's...
No, you're right. I've read the book. Incredible book. It's worth it. Anyone that hasn't read it, it's fascinating because it also talks about essentially how when you experience a trauma, your body holds on to it if you don't process it and release it. So the people that bottle and they bottle and bury their traumas. There was a lot of studies done with things like cancer rates. People that had experienced certain traumas were more statistically prone to cancers. All sorts of various negative, real physical effects that relate to the occurrence of a trauma. Like study groups and test groups that sort of backed all this research up. Which I guess then if you were going to go into genetics, if you're carrying those traumas and then you're reproducing, would that then be passed on to the offspring? There's all sorts, mate. I remember I went down rabbit holes and there were, I can't remember the name of the study now, but there was studies done on rats. I might butcher this and you might know of this study, but some traumas that were introduced to rats by manner of electric shock, and the rats were kept in separate buildings, but the test group and the placebo group, as it were, exhibited the same fears after the electric shock to the group that were in no contact to the other one. Very strange phenomenon, but scientifically tested and peer-reviewed and proved to be correct with no explanation. So I think there's a lot of things that go on, not to get too spiritual on it, but to do with people and energies that we just don't understand.
Yes, yeah, there's certainly that aspect. Like staying with the point you made a moment ago, though, I don't think the idea of trauma being passed on in a genetic sense is far-fetched. If anything, I would say we can pretty much be quite certain of it. I think there was something with rats where something to do with like the smell of the cats or something like that. There's like a particular scent, and that they could essentially put that the fear of that smell into the rat, because obviously the signal means one thing, but then that the response to that signal is passed on generationally, which is crazy,
isn't
right?
it? Yeah.
But I don't think we're sort of in a place where we're denying that. Like stuff does get passed on, which would make perfect sense, really, because you have to contend with your environment, right? As an animal.
I think if I'm correct, the point you were trying to make with construction and the issues within construction is that actually potentially it attracts a certain person or more of a certain demographic of people into the trade. I saw some research the other day that was just very factual about it, about the issue in construction. Like, is it an issue in construction or is it an issue in men? Because it's well known that suicide rates are higher amongst men, 3 times higher than women. And then construction is the one industry in the UK that has the highest rate of men per capita of any other industry. So it kind of makes sense that the industry with the most amount of men is also the industry with the most amount of suicides.
Yeah.
So is it that it's construction or is it that it's men?
Yes. My first response to that is, does it matter? No. Do you know what I mean? Like the issue's still the issue, right? And it doesn't matter where they're gathered, right? If they're gathered in construction, it doesn't matter. Like we need to.
I would say the only reason it would matter is if we're pointing our torches in the wrong direction.
Yeah, go on.
So, and what I mean by that is, are we addressing issues that are typical to men, or are we addressing issues that are typical to construction? Because if it isn't actually the construction issues that are causing the issues that we see in terms of the demographic and the statistics, and it's just a man problem, are we shining the torch on the right thing? I think that's the only thing that would matter.
Yeah, I really like that approach. It's something that I'm big on in my own work with clients, is really seeing what is the problem. Because I think if we don't see what the problem is, then how are we going to deal with it, right? So we need to see it. So I love the idea of shining the light in the right place. And at the same time, I would still say, okay, well, you know, if it is a man problem, but men are gathered in that area, so in the area of construction, I think it's a really valid question. How much of a responsibility does the industry have to the well-being of the people in it? It's a debate.
Yeah,
it's a debate, right? And I know we might be quick to point at bigger companies and say they need to do more. You can argue it, right? You can argue it from different angles.
Should a company in construction do more than a company outside of construction just because they're in construction? And I've got no answer to any of these questions that I'm posing, by the way. This is literally just like unraveling thoughts, because I don't know the answer. I wish I did. And not only that, I don't think anyone knows the answer, because if they did, then surely something would be being done to stop it.
You would hope so, wouldn't you? You would hope so.
I think if it was an easy answer, you would.
I think so, yeah. But I suppose I think ultimately what we're concerned with, right, is trying to get people to care.
Yeah.
So whether we're pointing at government, you know, that government needs to do more in terms of mental health initiatives and putting more funding into mental health services, or if we're looking at industries that seem to predominantly have these sorts of issues, ultimately we are trying to get these people to care more. I think that's what we're asking them, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can care more. Maybe not like you need to solve this problem, but you do need to care more. And I think that's fair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, personally. Absolutely. I mean, the construction industry is a cornerstone of the country. You know, anyone that's listening to this podcast now, look around you. Whatever you see around you has been brought to fruition by the construction industry. And the government like to make promises based on what the construction industry will deliver. Mm-hmm. We're going to build 1.5 million houses in the next... It's great, isn't it, when they say we, because ain't no we. Like those people making those statements are definitely not picking up a trowel, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's a hugely important industry, and yeah, could people care more? Absolutely.
You don't think Keir Starmer's got it in him to
get on the trowel or the brush or the no, no, not at all, mate. I really do not think he would do more than, I was going to say a day, but I don't think he'd even have that, to be honest with you, Chris. My opinions are very low of that individual, shall we say.
Yeah. We're in danger of getting political, though, aren't we?
We are. The problem is, do I think the government could do more? Absolutely, unequivocally, yes. Mm-hmm. Do I think they will? No. So we're just flogging a dead horse, in my opinion.
So this is something I was thinking about, and I really wanted to get your opinion on it, because we speak about mental health a lot, this concept of mental health. And I think there's many areas where that's, of course, appropriate, because there seems to be something wrong in that person's mind, or in that person's, or we might even say with that person's brain, right? There seems to be something happening. But we don't really talk about emotional health.
Okay, differentiate the two.
Well, if it's like a mental health issue, then we might say that it's something wrong with your brain. But if it's an emotional health, then actually these are your emotional systems. And I know in some sense it's splitting hairs, because all of this stuff is going on up here, but just framing it slightly different, you know, is the reason why I'm saying it is because we can talk about raising an awareness for mental health and support, and trying to corral all of this support for mental health. I think it's harder though to do that if we could. It's a harder sell, right? Emotional health. It's a harder sell. It's obviously not a popular concept at all, but if people are actually struggling with their emotions, and it's not actually their mind that is problematic, it's just that they don't have a great connection to their emotional world or an understanding of their emotional systems, which vary.
Emotional intelligence, mate. Yeah, it's an interesting way you put that. I hadn't thought about it like that. I think in my mind, I'd boxed it off as mental health includes emotional health.
Yeah.
And the difference between the two is mental health and mental illness, because I would say mental health is managing your surroundings and your emotions and events that are currently taking place. Mental illness are your conditions, schizophrenia, BPD, all these kind of things that you can label would be what I would refer to as being a mental illness. Because I used to confuse the two. So up until I was 31, Chris, if you'd have said to me, Russ, how's your mental health? My response would have been, ain't got it, mate. That would have been it, because I was completely ignorant to it. Didn't understand it. I confused all mental health for mental illness. So if you'd have talked to me about mental health, I would have thought that means you need to go to the doctor, get pills. Worst case scenario, you need to be put in a padded cell for a little bit until you're okay. That was my full understanding of it. Hugely ignorant. What I now come to sort of rationalise or realise in my mind is mental health is day-to-day life. So I guess that is your emotions. It's emotional regulation and responses to situations and environments that you find yourself in. Yeah,
no, I'm completely with you, and I think there's definitely like a criticism you could lay at what I said it's just sort of semantics. You're just like playing with the words and you're splitting hairs. But like I said to you about seeing things as clearly as we can. I think there might be a worthwhile distinction in there, because I think sometimes what you're trying to get out of the way sometimes is this belief that somebody has, because their emotional world is volatile, or they don't have a good understanding of it, and they seem to be sort of at the whim of these emotional states.
Yeah.
The belief that can come out of that is that there's something wrong with their brain. There's something wrong with their mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, you can see why that happens because of the connection that you make. But in some cases, it might be important to understand that actually there's not anything wrong with your mind or your brain. Right. You're not crazy. Yeah. You're not mad. You're not in a different reality. All of these things that I think some people can come to believe. And maybe it sort of reduces the size of the problem in some way, right? It's just like...
It's interesting, mate. Former guest of the podcast, his episode came out last week, actually, which by the time yours comes out will be a few weeks ago. But James O'Keefe, so big shout out to James. Fascinating person, incredible bloke. And we talked about it, and he came up with an analogy. So he runs men's health retreats, that kind of thing, but very much focused on mental health. Unguarded Warrior, to anyone that wants to check him out, does some incredible work. But he was talking about how men tend to, or are only educated to have one tool for life, in terms of we deal with every emotion with one tool, and that tool that most men are taught to use is anger. So it's educational for me, because I went through it myself, mate. Generation, I'm not blaming my father or my family, but came from that generation of we don't talk about your feelings, you don't talk about emotions, you man up. The man up generation, let's call it that. So I was completely unaware, I was completely ignorant to the existence of any of these things. It was, if you feel any kind of way, you deal with it with anger. Somebody's pissed you off, what do? You fight them. Everything was dealt with anger. The best way to respond if you're scared, get aggressive. You follow where I'm thinking here? It comes down to this, to me, to an initial education. And the building trades obviously is full of a certain type of person in generalized speaking. I know there's outliers before anyone comes for me. But there's a lot of alpha male types, traditional alpha male types, that have had that same education. So when you've only got one tool in your toolbox, which is a fucking sledgehammer to hit things with, and something comes your way that upsets your emotional state, and you might actually be feeling sad or hurt, but the only thing you've got is a sledgehammer. So the only thing you can do is be angry and attack, which then is going to exasperate, and we're back in that cycle.
Yep.
You know, the exasperation, the perfect storm, the increased, well, you were hurt by something, so you've got angry and you've caused more trouble, which has caused more hurt, so you get angry again. And it's being able to, when you haven't got the education to understand what's going on, how do you step out of that cyclone of destruction, really?
Yeah, that's exactly to the point, I suppose, that I'm making. If you understand, so sometimes if you might be pleased to know, actually, I'd say 90% of my practice is men.
Brilliant.
And I've actually seen an increase in people in construction.
Fantastic.
So this is happening. But often, if I'm speaking with men and we are talking about anger, and I just ask them, what is anger? They don't actually know. They know what happens when they get angry,
Yeah.
but they don't really have an understanding of what anger is. And there are different. There are ways to think about what anger is. You know, there are theories, and there's scientific explanations of what's happening, right? What anger actually is. And I find when I, to your point of education, right, when you do start to give that sort of psychoeducation, it changes the relationship that this person might have with this thing that's happening. Because ultimately they have this emotional response. There's behaviors that come out of that, and the feedback from the world is just no, right?
Yeah.
Bad. And you can kind of understand that, really, especially when we're talking about men, because when men get very angry, we've got the possibility of physical destruction, right? So you can see why, especially for women, why that would be a problem, and especially women that have young children around, right? So we understand why we sort of have to chastise this aspect, but I think it's a shame that happens, because then actually, majoritively speaking, men aren't invited in to understand this component that seems to be quite prominent, quite a key feature of them, and actually something, if mastered, will make them incredibly powerful.
Yep.
So I love it when people start talking about anger, and I really try to befriend this emotion, anger. I try to tweak that relationship. So
to turn your own question back on yourself, what would you say anger is?
Oh, yeah. So I think of it, there's a neurobiologist. I'm aware when I say things like that, how much of a wanker I sound.
Not at all, mate. I love it.
There's this neurobiologist,
yeah.
But there is a neurobiologist,
brain scientist.
Yeah, does things with brain.
Yeah,
he's his name's Yark Panksepp, and he did this really interesting work where he mapped out the 7 affective systems. So the emotional systems, essentially 7 of them, and what's really fascinating about what he did is he mapped them out across mammals, not just people, so that you can. There's a lot of evidence that lets us know that, or from his work, that there are these 7 emotional systems that are prevalent in mammals across the board. One of those emotional systems is rage, not to be thought about in the sort of extreme anger that we're kind of discussing now, but very specifically, rage is the energy required for protest or boundary setting.
Okay.
And so when you start to think of anger in that way, that actually what your anger, because all emotion, as far as I'm concerned, is signal. Your emotion is letting you know something. So if you understand that what your anger is this emotional system that is letting you know that something you need to protest something, well, now you know what the root is. So now you're not just sort of in the tornado of this thing. Actually, there's something there. And then from that base, then we can really start working with, well, what are the situations that create this? Actually, what we often realize is you have every right to your protest or your boundary in that situation. The way you tried to do it probably wasn't the right way to do it, but you're justified. Your emotion is justified. The expression, perhaps not. So we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, basically, because in order to be a healthy human, mentally, emotionally, you're going to have boundaries. And you're going to have to be able to protest when it's appropriate.
That's such a great explanation. Yeah, I really, really appreciate that. It's to me, I find understanding is so powerful. It's been really powerful for me. So I often translate that outwardly. I'm like, well, if it worked for me, it must work for other people. But just understanding it's one of the, again, key thing for me was I spent some time informally studying evolutional psychology. So just the study of us, the study of a human, what we're designed to do, how we're designed to react. But just then the understanding of that like, oh, it's not me. It's not me that's wrong. It's quite normal to have that feeling that makes me want to then have that outward action. The understanding of that was enough for me to inwardly reflect in those moments rather than let it run riot. So you've no doubt heard of or read the book, The Chimp Paradox.
Yeah.
That analogy of having that inner chimp and letting that, I lived up until I was 30, the chimp was in control. That was it. It was like, if the chimp wanted to come out, the chimp come out. Somebody triggered me, I didn't understand it, I felt these things, I wanted to act a certain way, that was how I acted. Having that moment of reflection and understanding has been life-changing for me, because I say it's been life-changing now because I'm just so much calmer. I find it's really hard to use that word, really hard to make me angry because of the understanding of other people.
Yeah.
So to understand somebody else's actions now and have that point where I can zoom out and think, right, I'd have gone from, that bloke's being a prick, I'll fight him, to that bloke's being a prick, I wonder what's gone on. Do you know what? I'll just give him some space, let him do his thing. I'm going to carry on about my day with a smile on my face.
Yeah.
And it's that, having the understanding for me was the turning point. The understanding that, do you know what, actually it's nothing to do with me. How somebody else is behaving on a certain day, if they're unreasonable and they're overstepping my boundaries, that's not because of me. That's all in them. There's something going on with them that day. And to be able to then step back, not challenge it and just walk away, like the power in that for me personally in my life was huge.
Yeah, that's a mastering of that rage system that we're talking about, right? Is that you're not being carried away by it. You're aware it's there and you're in control of it. Or maybe we would say, I try to stay away from control. I'm always careful with that word, but
Mastery.
Yeah, there's regulation that's occurring there. But I love what you're saying, because I was talking about this the other day with my wife, is like the thing that I'm always after in the therapy with the clients is like fundamental shifts in the perception. And I think the way to do that is through understanding ourselves, being aware of what our experience is. But I think it's one of for me, it's what creates like lasting behavioral change.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You can do little things to change your behavior. It's one of the criticisms, I suppose, of CBT. The heavy criticisms is it's like temporary. We often see relapse. People change their behavior, sure, but the underlying has not been dealt with. But when you can get like a fundamental shift in your perception, then you don't even have to like make any effort to change the behavior. That's how you know that's happened, because the behavior just changes.
Well, to me, it's symptom and cause. The CBT therapy, as far as I understand it, treats the symptom well. But then it's down to the person to do the work on the fundamental cause of the symptom. So if you only ever treat the surface and the underlying rot, if you like, is still there, it will just manifest in another area.
Yeah.
Same as decorating. If you seal a water stain and the leak is still coming, it's going to pop up somewhere else. You know?
Yeah.
Great analogy for the construction industry there. But yeah, for me, Chris, that understanding, you imagine, so me, myself, not to say that I'm like hyper intelligent, but I did well at school. I was academically sound. Academia was just not for me, but I was academically sound. So, but then I lived my life in a certain way up until a certain age. Then all of a sudden discovered and understood that mental health existed. So then jumped 2 feet into psychology, and it was this whole new world for me to learn. And I grabbed it with both hands, and it was life-changing for me because it completely changed some of my patterns of behaviour, just on understanding, because I was purely reactive, I think, to my emotions, and, you know, because I just had no understanding of why. It was just like, I feel this, so I do that. You know, very caveman sort of thing, really. But there was never anybody that ever pointed anything out to me. And I was in a very enclosed world that I wasn't seeking out the education, I wasn't seeking out the knowledge. It was forced upon me through circumstance.
Yeah.
But there have been a few things. I would say evolutional psychology was a big turning point for me. There were a few books I read. Have you heard of Yuval Noah Harari? His series, I think Sapiens was the first one, or yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
right?
It was the first one.
Yeah, so I've read his series of books. I found those fascinating. That, and then studying Stoic philosophy was another game changer for me. Mindset. So I'd gone from understanding and then adjusting mindset and the combination, and then basic psychology, which again I just found fascinating with the actual, I guess, the science of the brain, you know, the chemicals and what does what here and there. And those were like the 3 pieces for me that made a real big difference.
Yeah, and you found that yourself, didn't you? You didn't go through a therapy process, right?
No, I should have. And I would like to. I would like to undertake therapy just as an exploration thing to understand more about myself. I still have my downfalls, far from fucking perfect, mate. One of my downfalls is self-care, because I prioritise everything else. And that's because what I would say to you previously, I ain't got time, mate. I ain't got time to do therapy. I'll just prioritise other things at the moment. I would like to get round to it. I would like to. I think it's, if I continue at some point and I pick up that baton of wanting to get into counselling and therapy, then obviously it will be a part of that. So that's, I guess I've kind of placed it somewhere in my future.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Well, I think this could lead really nicely into perhaps why men don't seek out therapy, or what the kind of blocks, there might be.
Well, maybe as a start point, what I'd like to ask you is why you got into therapy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's when you're training, it's a big question, and you're sort of encouraged.
How long ago to start? How long ago did you do this?
You want the full story?
If you're happy to give it.
Yeah, so I was in India for the second time, and I was living there with my now wife. She had got relocated out there for her work, and I loved India the first time I went, so I went and stayed out there, and I was out there for the best part of a year this time. But I got really sick. I got really sick out there. And you know, you were talking a moment ago about like spiritual, maybe like spiritual illnesses or something like that. It's kind of, it's the way that I would frame this thing that happened, because I was just sick. I just couldn't quite get it back. But it was in this time when I was in India and I had a lot of time, and I was at dinner one evening with my wife, and I just said to her, when I get back, I'm going to be a therapist. That's what I'm going to do.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Like an epiphany moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And I suppose I'm quite lucky in a way, because I'm quite self-starting, and if I say I'm going to do something, I just sort of do it. So I said it, I spoke it out there, and when I got back, sure enough, I set to it. So I started training whilst running the decorating business as well. When I got back, I started training in 2019, finished my training in 2022.
Okay.
But had started actually working with people since 2020. So this December it will be 5 years practice, and I've been at it quite hard. So I've got a lot of hours under my belt. So yeah, that's the amount of time.
Okay. What do you get I mean, aside from the obvious financial, but what do you get? What made you want to do it, Chris? Other than obviously being in India, but why therapy?
Yeah. So I think I was always, I don't know if this will make sense, but it was something that I decided I was going to do before I had some sort of understanding of why I was going to do it.
Okay.
Right? I was going to do it. I knew I wanted to do it. What the reason was, perhaps that wasn't too clear to me. But through your training, you are sort of encouraged to think about this kind of thing. And the common thing that you'll hear is like the wounded healer, right? Somebody who has their own wounds and seeks to heal them through healing others, right? Something to that effect. And I think I'd kind of was on to that narrative for a little while. But I think what I've realized more and more is not only am I a nosy bastard, I really like puzzles. And
Okay.
I maybe what's the answer that you're supposed to give? Some sort of altruistic,
Not at all, mate.
But I fucking love puzzles, man. And I think there's no greater puzzle. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Like not a second do I wish I was doing something else. And when I'm in the room with people, I'm locked in, and I just have an appetite for it. Like a lot of, when I was training, a lot of people say, oh, you can only do this amount of hours a day, or you need bread. I'll do 8 hours back to back to back to back. And
Really?
And I'll be fresh as a daisy in the last one. Because I think when you're engaged, you know, it's different, you know, that cliche of like, if you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. It's kind of, I suppose it's kind of in that.
There's some truth to that, though.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, it feels a lot like play. That might be the better way to sort of describe it. I know that sounds a tiny bit weird because obviously this is real issues that people are having.
I understand it, though, mate. I think the problem is there's a bit of a thing, I guess, when it comes to therapy, and because you know that you're dealing with people that have got an issue. There's this thing, like a perception outwardly, that you've got to be very like, very, very sad, very stoic about it, and that's not the truth. Like, you've got to live that every day, and the world needs people like you that do see it as a puzzle to be solved, because you're doing real good, you're helping people. But you also have to prioritise yourself. And like I was trying to touch on earlier with myself, I had to work out whether I could, because it's bizarre, isn't it? If I was being brutal, I had to work out whether I would care too much. That's the truth of it. Would I take it home because I cared too much? I had to work out whether I could care enough to be there for that person in the moment, but not enough that I would care after the moment.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Have you heard of the expression toxic compassion?
No, but I can imagine what it means.
You've basically just described it.
Yeah.
It's like you can be compassionate to a point where you're now actually poisoning the person. So there's a good general rule when you care for somebody, particularly when you care for old people, elderly people, you do not do anything for that person that they can do for themselves. And that's because if you're taking away what they can actually do for themselves, and it's from a good place, it's from the place of compassion.
Yeah.
But it's actually taking a lot away from them. And so it's I think you're just pointing towards that sort of concept of toxic compassion. And you often see it when parents really struggle with the balance of how much to do for their children, right? And how much sort of anguish to let their child face, right? You don't want them to face anything, right? They're your children. You want to protect them from absolutely everything. It's not the right thing for the child. That's toxic compassion.
I guess the danger with it, with the industry, the care industry, the therapy industry, is whether you're doing it genuinely to help the person or whether you're doing it because inwardly you're trying to help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, the wounded healer, you're actually trying to do that because you need healing, and you're trying to heal through healing somebody else, could potentially skew the boundaries of how much you should do for a person objectively, to be able to step back and prioritize that person with no inner motivation, which is difficult because I would imagine most people don't realize that that is the inner motivation.
Yes, which is, there's certainly been cases where I've, there's been some therapists that I've known, and I've thought, who are you there for? It's like a real question. Who are you there for? But I'm also not sort of idealistic as to say that we don't get anything out of it as well.
You have to,
right? But it's almost like, well, like how much are you getting out of it, right? That would be the question. Like, is this really all about you getting something? And I think it's an important question. It's why we have supervision regularly. I had supervision today before I came here. We have supervision for things like this, but also as well, during your training, you're encouraged to go through therapy. So I had extensive therapy during my training.
How was that for you?
At the time, I wasn't aware of how much good it was doing me. In some sense, I was there because it was a course requirement. And if that probably wasn't there, I probably wouldn't have done it, right?
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I ended up processing a lot of what I really did need to process. And as a result, particular relationships in my life have gotten a lot better, I was able to, just sort of reshape those. And that was really important. But at the time, I don't think I was really aware. And I think sometimes that's quite common when you're in the process of the therapy. It's hard to sort of point at, here are all the checkpoints that are being reached. Here are all the incremental improvements. Sometimes it's not possible to do that in it, but afterwards, in hindsight, there's a processing that occurs.
What sort of therapy do you deliver yourself? Which modality of it?
Yeah, so I'm trained as an integrative therapist, which the course really is largely, it covers a lot, but it's largely constructed of psychodynamic therapy, person-centered therapy, and CBT therapy.
Okay, so all of them.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm not a purist. I don't work in a strict way. I don't sort of see one philosophy or one sort of school of thought as the one that solves the problems. Really, I suppose if I have like a philosophical perspective on life, it's probably like subjectivism. So I just think essentially to each his own. Like everybody has to figure it out for themselves, and everybody has a subjective experience of the world that is unique to them, and therefore the therapy that I have to deliver has to be unique to that person that's come in. And so that's how I really, of course I have my frameworks, but I don't want to get rigid. I really want to be able to move with that person.
I'm glad to hear that, mate. It's kind of what I was hoping to hear. If you'd have sort of said, I deliver CBT.
Yeah.
That's it. Or I deliver person-centered, or I deliver, it's, I'm glad to hear, because that's always been my theory. And listen, I'm not trained, so it's just an amateur speculation, but my theory on it has always been that for it to be at its most, I guess, successful would have to be a blend of everything, because there's no wrong, whether it's psychodynamic, whether it's person-centered, whether it's CBT, they all have their uses. But to me, it should be the blend. It should be the blend of all of them. CBT can treat the symptoms somebody's struggling with, and psychodynamic can maybe explore some of the cause. So you've got that perfect blend there. Whereas one without the other, I feel that you would always be missing something. Yeah,
well, that's certainly my perspective as well. Although I would be quick to not be like disparaging of the individual therapies, because there are cases where they're very appropriate. Like there are things, and there are people that do CBT that are incredible and they get incredible results. And there are certain problems that people are going through where that approach is very suitable, and that's absolutely fine. The same with like a person-centered approach. Like I would say if you're grieving, you probably don't want to come and see me. I'm not that type of therapist, you know. I can be that type of person, I suppose, but you would probably want to go to somebody who was very much centered in person-centered therapy. You know, just hold the space and be present and go with that person wherever they want to go. I'm way more active as a therapist, so I'd be great like when you're coming out of the grief. Like I'm your man.
Yeah.
But maybe not when you're in it, you know?
I think what you're touching on is a really important point though, Chris, in that for anyone that's potentially wanting to explore therapy, there are a vast range of different therapists.
Yes.
And not each one is for everyone. So if you were to reach out to a therapist and it didn't work, don't think that is therapy not for you. It's, you know, you've got to find the right person.
Man, you're spot on. That's like one of the things I just wish... it's one of the things I wish I could doctor about the looking for the therapist, is really encourage that. But I appreciate how difficult that is for people, because that's quite a process to go through, isn't it? You're in this vulnerable position. You're in this position where you are reflecting on yourself and saying, I can't do anything about this. I need help with this. And then you're going to go and, you know, sort of expose yourself to these different people in a process of finding who's going to be right for you. So I get it. I really do get it. At the same time, it's just such a shame if somebody has that first experience and then they go, well, no, therapy's a load of shit, you know, or therapy's not for me. Tried it, wasn't really. And it's like, you just didn't get the right one, you know.
Again, though, I mean, I only know what I just said because of what I studied. Yes. Prior to that, I wouldn't have had a clue what CBT, psychotherapy, person said. I wouldn't have known what that was. I would have just thought therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, it comes back to that knowledge and understanding. And the one thing that did surprise me, to be honest, when I was doing so again, I went into it with ignorance. When I decided, right, I want to go into therapy and counselling, I'm going to do an honours degree in psychology, because I thought that obviously that's what you do. I couldn't believe actually what a Wild West kind of environment therapy can be. I know you have the governing bodies, things like the BSCA?
Well, mate, there's dozens, but BACP is the most
BACP,
popular.
that was what I was looking for. But to my point, there's dozens.
Yep.
I was quite surprised by how unregulated it is, if I'm honest, and the fact that the only thing that you actually need a psychology degree for is if you're going to go into doctorates and be a psychologist.
Yeah.
But the world of psychotherapy, which sounds very much like psychology, to the majority of people that won't be educated, it is the Wild West.
It's not a protected title.
Yeah.
So it's not literally anybody set up a Google business page, say they're a counsellor, psychotherapist, start seeing people, selling their services, and it's not illegal.
Which is terrifying, given the vulnerability of the people that you're going to deal with. And there's the other one, the life coach, which is even more, you know, even more Wild West, that side of things. But yeah, that surprised me, because I thought it would be massively regulated. And it was only, so like I say, I got 4 years into 6. And then I actually started looking at how to become a, counsellor, therapist, that kind of thing. And it was like, basically, you got to start again and do all these courses. And I was like, hold on, if I come out of this with a psychology degree, surely I don't mind, if I've got to do a top up.
Yes, yeah.
But it counted for nothing.
Yeah.
Literally nothing. which was quite disheartening at the time. But yeah, it did surprise me. The industry did surprise me in terms of that. I thought it would be very much, here is the path. I think I probably had a medical framework in my mind of how it would be like a profession.
Yeah,
like becoming a vet or a doctor or that sort of thing.
There's a big difference between like the medical framework and then, so it's something that I have to be very clear with people. You know, if somebody, for example, is looking for a diagnosis, or they want to ask me if they should lower their dosage of their antidepressants, so you have to be very clear.
Yeah,
I'm not medically trained. That's a different. Yeah. That's a completely different field. So you have to be really, really clear with that. But I think that goes back to what you were saying about like mental illness, and mental health. Like
separation.
One of them is a medical issue. Mm-hmm. There's a medical issue, and the other one isn't. Mm-hmm. But I do think it should be regulated at a higher level. Probably, to be honest, I haven't thought a great deal about it, because I think perhaps it is well regulated once you're in.
Yeah,
you know, and essentially you should be very clear, like that the therapist that you're going to see should clearly be able to show you that they are a registered member of a particular body.
Yeah.
Right. Those are some things to check. But don't you think you'd have to be pretty fucked up to do that sort of thing?
Mate, there are so many fucked up people in the world, though, Chris. This
is interesting.
Yeah,
because my perspective is quite rare.
I've come across a few.
I'm too optimistic.
Morally, listen, I mean, one thing I do want to clarify when I've raised that issue about the non-regulation is that the proper psychotherapists are very well trained, and the training is extensive, and they are proper. The issue I was trying to raise was that there isn't really anything to stop, say, me tomorrow registering myself and advertising as a psychotherapist. Like you said, it's not illegal. Mm-hmm. There's nothing to stop me doing that. So it comes down to that education again of doing your research on who you're going to see, but that's important. If you are going to go and see a therapist, make sure you know who you're going to see and that they're accredited in the correct manner.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the difference, isn't it, between medical. If I were to open this place up tomorrow and say I'm a doctor, I would be arrested.
Yes.
But I could say I'm a psychotherapist, and there's nothing anyone could do.
Yeah.
Which, when you're dealing with people in that crisis, is quite terrifying.
They might make the argument that you can't do physical harm as a therapist, but I think that's a grey area. You can. Oh
God, of course you can.
You can.
Of course you can.
You can definitely, even as a trained therapist, right, and someone with a lot of experience. The reality is that you can still do harm.
Yeah,
you actually can.
To be honest with you, Chris, I've always been really conscious of that. Just doing this.
Yeah.
Just doing this. There's been a few offers I've had from organisations that have wanted to put me in positions I wasn't comfortable with, in terms of the responsibility. For example, I had a certain organisation want to appoint me as their mental health expert. And I was like, fuck no. Fuck no. Advocate, yes. Expert, no. Big difference in the words. But I've also been very careful that when I started this, not so much now, but when I first started, and I think people were maybe a little bit grey on what it was I was trying to do, probably the first 15, 20 episodes, I had a lot of very direct messages from people that were struggling, things I wouldn't repeat, but looking to me for help directly. Russ, what would you do here? What would you do about this? And all I've ever done is signpost people. Like, I'm sorry to hear you're struggling, mate. Here's a great organisation that can help you. Mm-hmm. Because I've always been very conscious to not take that on because of the responsibility. I'm not trained in any way. Yeah. Yes, by definition of an expert, I probably know more than the average person because I've educated myself and I've had these conversations. I'm learning from you today, so I probably do know more than the average person, but not to a point where I would ever take the responsibility of giving out advice. There's such a responsibility.
Yes.
You miss that reply, you miss that text message from somebody that's in crisis. People become reliant very quickly. That was one of the beautiful things about Samaritans, is that it was completely anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
So as a call, when you take the call, you're anonymous. They don't know who you are. It's randomized. So that they changed all their systems. You used to ring a local branch, and then they changed it to a national database. So, I could take a call from anywhere in the UK. And if you ring Samaritans, you get any one of their call centres anywhere in the UK. So I couldn't say, have a great conversation with you and then ring back on Tuesday, I'm struggling again. Oh, no, I'm going to speak to Chris. It's 6 o'clock on Tuesday. No, it's completely randomised. The chance of you speaking to the same person twice is tiny.
Yes.
But that's good for the volunteer, because you haven't got the responsibility, the pressure.
You haven't got the relationship.
Yeah.
Completely
Completely anonymous, both ways.
Yeah.
Anonymous for them, anonymous for us.
Yeah.
Whereas doing this, it is very not anonymous. Like, people know exactly who I am. So I've always had to be really careful about taking on any advice position. I just haven't done it. I will signpost.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened for a while, actually, thankfully. But whenever it has happened, that's what I'll do. Is I know I've got a list of organisations that I can signpost people to that are struggling.
Yeah. I suppose you're wanting to be careful.
100%. Mate, if I could, I'd love to help people, but I'm very conscious that I might get it wrong. So what might feel right to me in the moment might not. There was a great example, and it's one that probably stuck with me. So again, to pull it back to Samaritans, they've got a policy of self-determination. Mm-hmm. So when you're a volunteer, you can only listen. You're not allowed to give advice, and that includes the most severe of circumstances, including suicide. Mm-hmm. So if you have an active suicide in progress, you're not, even to the point where if you rung me and said, I'm not allowed to say, don't do that. You have to respect the person's wishes. You can explore why, and hopefully during that conversation, they will change their mind, which thankfully very often happens. Once you get them back into a rational framework. But I asked when I was doing my training, I was like, why is that? Because surely the most natural thing I can do is say, don't do that. I'm about to do this. Don't do that. Just wait a moment. Let me speak. But no. And the example I was given was, imagine this. Husband comes home from work, walks into the house, finds wife cheating, leaves the house, calls us, is considering ending their own life. You say, don't do it. Don't do that. It's not worth it. She's not worth it. Blah, blah, blah. Husband says, thank you very much, hangs up phone, goes home, murders wife, murders lover. Are you then somehow complicit? Extreme example.
Yeah.
But it stuck with me. To the point where I guess it did kind of put me off giving advice without knowing the butterfly effect, the ripple that advice could give. So I'm very, very conscious of the power of that.
Yeah. Cool. That is an extreme example, though, isn't it?
It's the most extreme example.
Yeah.
But a good way to, hammer it home.
Definitely hammers it home. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose that's something that's obviously very different about therapy.
Of course, yeah.
Is that you, and if anyone ever saw my profiles that are out there, you would see it's very different to all of the others, purposefully so. But one of the points that I make in there is, like this degree, these credentials, this many years practicing, whatever it is, doesn't really mean much, actually, in terms of therapy outcomes. It has something to do with it, I suppose, but then the research backs it up as well, is that the number one determinant thing for good outcomes in therapy is the relationship between the two. They call it the therapeutic alliance, right? And so really that's the key, is you want to talk to somebody, you want to have who can you have a relationship with? That's really the important thing, which is clearly a big difference between, and the nature of Samaritans and therapy is then Samaritans isn't therapy, right?
No, Samaritans is crisis. So it's that point, that moment, that split second.
Yeah, it's support in a moment, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Because like you just said, there's no relationship.
Yeah.
Purposefully, there's no relationship.
So what about that aspect then? Because obviously you're concerned from the position that you care, right? and you want to do good, you don't want to do harm. But then what about, like, how do you think about it in terms of if you were to then have relationships with people?
I guess my concern is responsibility and time. If I were to open the doors to that, say, come to me for advice, which I would never say. Anyone clip that? If I were to say, come to me for advice, it's how much can I give before I have to say no to people. And if I can't help everybody, I'd rather help, I'd rather just do what I'm doing, which is signpost people to organisations that are fully set up and ready to go.
Yeah.
Down the line, maybe, and there's probably a little bit of, I guess, imposter syndrome, confidence when it comes to these things. I went into this to explore myself, and I've learned a lot about myself, self-therapy. But to feel confident to deliver that appropriately to somebody else, I'm not there yet. If I had done your training, maybe I'd feel differently. But again, it's a volume thing. Like, how many people can you absorb and take that responsibility of? Because if people build relationships in a certain way, I guess the other thing is being available all the time. Being available all the time, and that thing of, if somebody's reliant on you and you miss the message, or you miss somebody shouldn't be reliant on you, but how do you stop that? When you're, for want of a better expression, I'm making myself kind of like a public figure here.
Yeah.
There's got to be boundaries, and I'm not sure how you'd establish those at this point.
No, of course. Yeah. I suppose there's something to be thought of in like what is harm, though. What sort of qualifies as doing harm, really? It might be important to note, by the way, just in case people are curious about therapy or they've thought about doing therapy, that a therapist shouldn't really be advising clients. That shouldn't be a part of the deal. It's not to be sort of, can't really be strict about that. For example, I may have been speaking to someone for 2 years, so I know them very well, and I know where they're trying to go in life, and I know what they want from life. And if something happens, or they do something, or they say something, it's not strictly advice, but you can hold it up to them. Like, that's not aligned with this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which is not really advice, but it's kind of, are you sure you want to go that way, right? It is having a hand on the direction in some way, or guiding the direction.
Yeah.
But in terms of, it's a delicate thing. Like, in terms of advice, it's something that you might maybe don't expect that from your therapist. Don't expect that.
I think, that's the thing, mate, isn't it? Example. If somebody, let's take your typical tradesperson, were to reach out and say, I'm struggling with long working hours and addiction, what they need is help, support and advice. But there are, there's places out there equipped to deal with that set scenario of issue that somebody might present. That makes sense, which is why I've always just signposted people on. And it does still, when I say it hasn't happened recently, maybe I'll just catch it early. It does happen in terms of, I find if Cam, we mentioned him before, his episode brought up anxiety, had a few people message around the subject. I'm feeling the same, I'm struggling with this and that kind of thing. There are some great organisations out there.
I loved his episode, by the way.
Brilliant.
Slight derailment. One of the things I really loved is that his, if anyone wants to really understand what anxiety is, listen to his story.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, sorry, I know I've sort of derailed you from that.
No, not at all.
A lot of people mistake anxiety, because it's very much a buzzword at the moment. I actually have access to like the most searched keywords when people come through the therapy platforms, and anxiety is number one on all of them. But often when people come to me and they start describing their anxiety, they're not talking about anxiety. They're actually talking about fear. They actually have fear. And Cam's episode is a really good example of what anxiety actually is, you know. But yeah, sorry, I completely.
No, mate, it's a very relevant point. Absolutely, I forgot why I was even bringing Cam up, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh no, the messages. I was saying, yeah. So
Sure.
like episodes like Cam's, or if I put an episode out specifically on, say, addiction, there tends to be appropriate or specific messages that come through, and it's like, yeah, I've listened to this and I'm experiencing similar or struggling or whatever. So again, to me, those people do need advice.
Oh, but I suppose in some sense, Russell, it's tough for you because, you know, there's what we put out. That's one thing, isn't it? But then how that's received, completely other thing, right? You can't control that.
Yeah.
Right. And even though, and this must be weird, I'd be interested to like know this for you. And you gave an example of being noticed in public, right? Is when you're in the public eye, you don't have a relationship with your audience in that sense, especially a personal one, but they have it with you, right? Yeah. That's very possible. And so when someone sees you, you're familiar. It's like when I turn up today, I've seen you loads. I've heard you speak loads. I knew a lot about you. So I already have this, in a strange sense, this relationship with you, but it's not coming back the other way. Yeah. So I can see why people do reach out to you in that way. They're making contact, aren't they?
Yeah. And you know, I mean, I'm scratching the surface on it, mate. There's people out there that are far more known and that. But I think because it's the circle because it's mental health, it's such a personal thing, such an important thing to everyone. I went on somebody else's podcast, actually. It's not out yet. Well, I'll talk about it anyway. One of the subjects I was asked was, how do I deal with that? How do I deal with being known for being, like, for want of a better, the mental health guy in terms of the industry?
Yeah.
And it was a reflective moment for me because it is difficult at times. There's a pressure and a weight to it.
Yeah.
In that, I gave an example. I went to a trade show last year, Bolton. Great couple of days on the trade show. And while I was there, fully expectant of people coming up talking about the podcast, which was brilliant. You know, it was fantastic. The example I gave was after the trade show, when I'm knackered, and went back to the hotel and just went to go to the hotel bar for a couple of drinks and then go to bed, meet a couple of people. Got collared by a couple of people that I didn't know, never spoken to before, but they'd seen me as, you know, the mental health guy. They've had a couple of drinks, so loosened a bit of inhibitions, and then came to me to offload situations that they'd either been through or were going through. And obviously I know as a man, for another man to open up to you is a massive thing. I'm never going to trample on that. I was never going to be that guy that was like, mate, come on, I'm off duty. Do you know what I mean? I would never do that. So please don't think that that's what I'm getting at. But at the same time, on a personal level, on a selfish level, I just wanted to go to the bar to get a drink.
Yeah.
But I likened it to the bag of boulders, you know. Somebody's been carrying the rucksack of boulders. Seen me. Here's a guy I can hand my boulders to. There's the boulders. And then walked off visibly lighter, which was great. That was great to see. But I'm sort of stood there going, fucking hell.
Yeah.
So I'm then having to process what I've been told. And I go to the bar and I order a pint and I have a tap on my shoulder. Same situation. Different issue, different person, same situation. And it was one of those where it's, on one side, it's a very privileged position to be in. And on another side, from a selfish point of view, it's like, actually, I don't want to be the mental health guy 24/7. And maybe that's, you know, you can't have it all. I can't do this and then expect people to understand that I'm off duty or switched off or whatever. But there's still a weight and a pressure to that.
I know. I think it's a tricky thing, particularly with your position. But actually, it's something I do speak to men about a lot. Actually, is this concept of availability.
Yeah,
there's this pressure that men tend to feel, at least in my experience, of having to be available, or just when they just don't want to be available, and then guilt that comes out of that, or, you know, difficult situations that come out of that. But going back to the rage, the energy necessary for protest and boundary, right? Sometimes it's very appropriate that you are not available. And you have to find, perhaps, if it's suitable for you, you have to find a way to be unavailable and have that boundary in place. Your situation is obviously very complex, and
there's a part of me, Chris, that left that experience and just thought, well, I can't do that. I can't.
Yeah.
If I want to unwind a bit, I can't go to the bar full of the people that know who I am.
So that's interesting, isn't it? Because now you're like your solution. Sorry, I'm not being a therapist here, right?
No, please do.
But
It's fascinating to get the feedback.
Yeah. So you, instead of the asserting of the boundary, right, which might be engaging in the rage, you withdraw. Because then you don't have to do that thing.
Yeah.
Which is understandable because this thing's problematic. But I think that's a habit that a lot of us. I have that. I have that. I had that this morning with my wife. Like I just. Instead of going to that place of putting my boundary in or protesting something, I'll withdraw instead. And I think there are scales, aren't there? And that can go to such a high scale, where the isolation and the loneliness, et cetera, where...
And to be honest with you, Chris, the thing is as well, like it's subjective. So I could accept that interaction on another day. On the particular day, I was tired. I'd been on my feet all day. I was overpeopled. I'd spent a whole day interacting with people, and that strange thing of people knowing you and you don't know them, and the awkward interaction, and trying to wear the smile, wear the mask all day is draining. It is draining.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, I just need to just go and just chill.
Take the mask off.
Some conversation not relating to what's going on, and then you're accosted by it. On another day where I haven't been at a trade show all day, I'd be happy to have those conversations and give people, 15 minutes of my time. Absolutely. But they don't know that as well. They don't know that that's where I'm at, or, so it's a very difficult interaction because I would hate to ever rebuff somebody, because that could be so detrimental to them.
You're using quite a nice word to rebuff them, but actually rejection, right?
Yeah.
They would feel rejected, especially in a vulnerable moment.
Exactly.
You don't want to be that guy. Of course you don't want to be that guy. And of course you do have to, well, maybe you do. I suppose I'm just sort of reading that in some sense, that you have something to protect. You have an image that needs to be protected.
Yeah, definitely, mate. That's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough.
It's an evolving one as well, because it will continue. And then again, if I look at it another way, Chris, I was there for I went to this event as the Talking Tradesman. I didn't go there as Russ. So I shouldn't then really moan when they expect the Talking Tradesman to be at the bar when he's been at the show all day. Do you know what I mean? I turned up as that person. If I'd gone out with my family for a drink on a random Saturday and somebody wanted to come up and offload, I think then I probably actually would feel comfortable going, look, mate, I'm sorry, I'm out with my family or whatever it might be. Across, I sound really like conceited here. Not that it will get to that, but yeah, I think maybe I'm just processing that situation myself now as I sit. I think maybe it was context, scene and setting.
Yeah,
were there, and that's me. I made the decision to go to the bar. I could have just gone back to the hotel room. Yeah, because what I really needed was a bit of peace and quiet. But so some accountability on myself in that situation, really.
Yeah, I suppose. I think it's great that you're reflecting in that way. You're being self-reflective, and at the same time, it doesn't. It's just so tricky, so tricky. I would wonder, how can you make sure? Oh, it's tough. It's just tough. But perhaps also the nature of the beast.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you might just have to take your lumps.
100%. Yeah, I'm a believer in that, Chris. Sometimes
Yeah.
you just have to. You have to, I've put myself here. It is what it is. You can't just have all the positives.
Yeah.
So
I wonder why. Those were they both men that come to speak to you? See, I wonder why they come to speak to you. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, what gets people, especially in construction, or just men that seem to go into construction, however we want to think about it. Like, how do they?
If I were to speculate, I would imagine issues going on, had a few drinks, felt more empowered to speak openly without the worry of the judgment, the alcohol, loosening of the tongue, the liberties. And it was just, and that was it. They've obviously been holding on to something for a long time and saw me as the opportunity to offload in that given time because I was there in that capacity, I guess. So, not that I was, but I mean, if you were to have walked into the bar with "I'm a therapist" written across your T-shirt, then you couldn't really be put out for somebody coming and talking to you about therapy. Mm-hmm. The problem is I don't have to wear a T-shirt with "I'm a therapist" on. It's my face. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's that guy. So that's all I can imagine. It was just, I guess I'm still getting used to this role because it's all been very quick and very new. And to have somebody that I didn't know whatsoever come and open up in that manner was a little bit alien to me at that time.
Yeah, maybe jarring as well because you're not expecting it in the environment, and you're sort of your mind's going in a particular way. But there's maybe there's something that's not to be missed because perhaps there was some Dutch courage, right? There was some social lubricant involved, but there's something about you that those people still felt like they could approach. So it's probably important that we understand those qualities. Anyway, I would like to understand them because I would like to help people in the trades. And like I said to you, I've had a few more people coming into therapy from the trades.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's been really recent. But what I will say is, of course, it's not the majority of the people that I speak to. But what each one of them has said is that they've had bad experiences with therapy before. And what they've all said is that they felt when they had been in therapy before, they felt as though the therapist was looking down at them or talking down to them. Mm-hmm. And I thought it's still fresh in my mind, but I'm kind of trying to figure out if that sort of helps us understand why people might be less willing to approach.
Just wondering why that screen's gone off, Chris. I think the telly's just timed out. And we're back. So sorry, Chris, where were we before technical studio difficulties interrupted?
What was I saying? About the men that have come into therapy and this feedback that they're giving, that felt like they've been spoken down to before, or they've been looked down upon. And I wonder if that is, I would love to know, I would love to speak to people more, men in the trades, and understand what it is. It's going to be a lot of things that keep people away, but I think, I think there might be something to that.
I personally, so this is the business side of me kicking in, but one of the reasons I wanted to get into counselling and therapy is because I feel there's a big gap in the market for that one of us kind of thing. So to even market yourself as, a therapist, you could do it yourself. Market it as being a therapist for the trades. I'm one of you. I've worked in the industry. I understand the pressures. I understand, I've been there, I've done it. I think exactly that. There's a little bit of a class divide potentially when it comes to the perception of the therapy and psychology industry, that you're going to sit down with somebody that's a little bit middle class, isn't really going to understand the issues of the working class man, the tradesperson, and language, terminology, that all plays into it, the way that you speak to somebody. And I think, again, that would be where I would have a little bit of a USP, the one of us sort of sales point, which was where I was heading with the whole counselling therapy, wanting to get into it. before I ended up as a podcast host. So, life has a funny way of taking you off.
Well, that might be the thing that made those blokes feel like they could approach you, right? Because they identify with you, right? So somebody that they can come and talk to. I hope that would be the case with myself as well.
I'd get that from you.
Yeah,
yeah.
I do hope so. But of course, there is the aspect though of maybe there's, and these are just ideas, I don't really know, but I've been thinking a lot lately that people don't like to be confused. And if you're coming to therapy, you you might get confused quite quickly because the point that I'm making there is that can be the thing that sort of creates the imbalance in the dynamic, is that you're coming to me and you're confused. I'm not confused. I know what's wrong with you. You don't know what's wrong with you. You're less than you can be. I know how you can be more than you can be, or I know what more than you can be is. There's these sort of, we often think about like the power dynamics in the therapy room, and I don't think many people, I would say particularly men, generally speaking, don't like feeling like they're beneath somebody or that somebody's better than them. These kinds of things doesn't bode well for relationships, and it's certainly not going to work for the therapy. But I would hope that's not the case. But you make a very valid point, which is that in my training, I think there was 3 guys, but everyone else, it was middle-aged, middle-class women, and that is the majority of the therapists that are out there, middle-class, middle-aged, white women. That is the bulk of it. And then you could even argue further that like the foundations of therapy and psychotherapy were actually created on the client base of middle-class, white, middle-aged women, right?
Yeah.
So perhaps it needs to evolve and it needs to change. I think it has done, and it has done a lot. But I suppose if you don't recognize your people in that place, maybe you're not going to be inclined to go there, and maybe that is the case.
It's another fear factory, isn't it? The factor. It's another boundary, I think, Chris. I think, like me personally, I would be guilty of looking for the reasons not. I need therapy, but let me look and find all the reasons not to do it. And as many of them, I think, as that we can take away as many reasons not as possible, then you're just going to bring more people in. There's a lot of accountability. People have got to be accountable for wanting to go and walking through the door. But if we can break down and give those options of difference, you're a great example of it, mate. A bloke with a trades background who can speak to people on a level, you can go to their level to speak to them. Just having you sat here today explaining everything, hopefully there'll be somebody listening that goes, oh, do you know what? Actually, it don't sound too bad. If I could sit down with a bloke like Chris, I think I'd be sound.
Yes, yeah. And I suppose the therapist, of course, but in general, but myself being from that world, I've actually, there's going to be a lot of resonance. I've been through a lot of what a lot of people in our industry have been through.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely an element. I mean, if I were to sit down for therapy, I wouldn't be against sitting down with a white middle-aged woman. But there would definitely be a part of me that would be sat there thinking, you can't fully understand me. You've not had to do what I've had to do. You've not had the pressures and come from the background I've come from. So you're not going to fully understand. You might textbook understand, but you're not going to feel where I've been. Yeah. And I think we do crave that, the understanding on that real root level.
Yeah.
This bloke gets it.
Yeah.
So there would be a bit of a barrier to an
Yeah.
extent. And maybe that then creates that better bond of relationship between therapist and client that stands a bit of a longer test of time, perhaps.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
What I don't want to miss, mate, because we have been talking for a while.
Yeah.
Handily. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, sure.
So co-founder of Handily. Best thing, Chris, first of all, mate, explain what Handily is. I know it's exciting as well because we got version 2 on its way.
Yeah, version 2 is on its way. So it's evolving. It started as I was complaining to my wife all the time about not being able to find workers and, get people in quick, or when you get let down on the day. And so it started off, and she was like, well, why don't we, create this app where people are available and you can just search in the area and blah, blah, blah. So it started out like that. And my wife, who is the other co-founder, which is why I can't claim founder status, she was amazing. And she got really stuck into building the first version of the app. And she absolutely nailed it. And we got a few people on board as well, but it just kept evolving. And the more we're sort of steeped in like the community, as it were, particularly on social media, there's there's an active little buzzing community on there. It just sort of evolved. So now really what Handily is going to is to be essentially a digital platform for people in the trades, but I think it's moving away less from the emphasis on finding work. I think a lot of platforms offer that. That's what they think the thing is.
Yeah.
But for me, I think that's secondary. And actually what I want to create is a community, maybe the best way to think about it is like a cross between Reddit and LinkedIn.
Okay.
But specifically for the trades. So what you'll notice on pretty much all of these platforms, like if you go on Glassdoor or you go on LinkedIn, if you even go on Reddit, there are no construction subreddits. And if there are, they're really bloody hard to find. They're certainly not in the main topics. So you can get like DIY, home improvement, that sort of stuff, but nothing specific for trades construction. And then if you go on LinkedIn, it's all pretty much white collar. It's not much blue collar. And then of course, if you go on Glassdoor and you're looking at companies that have been reviewed, like Balfour Beatty or these big ones, all of the reviews of these companies are white collared workers. So it's like the project managers or the structural engineers. It's not the ground worker, it's not the road worker that's out there in the pissing rain sorting out the roads for everybody. It's not. So there seems to be a gap that we're somehow being missed, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we want to do with Handily. We want to create the platform that attends to that and addresses that. And I'm currently building the second version of it. It's not too far away. It'll be with us soon.
Can we tease a launch date out here, Chris, or you're not trying to put that pressure on yourself right now?
Well, do you know what? I'm building it myself, and I don't have any experience in this, but I know somebody who has set me up with. He's like a software engineer, and he set me up with this platform, essentially where I can just use AIs to talk to each other and build the platform.
Okay.
And it's a little bit more complicated, but it's moving along. I want the first version to be done by the end of November, but with the second version, but with tech and everything, it's unbelievable how many problems crop up. It's like you can't account for it. So you're kind of chasing your tail, and you do something, you create a fire over there, you're trying to put it out. So hopefully we'll get it there before December. I think so. But there is an aspect of it that I can't talk to you about here.
Teaser.
I can tell you about it afterwards. But there's going to be an aspect to the platform that nobody's done.
Okay.
Nobody's ever. And
Interesting.
I think tradespeople are going to really, really like it. It's going to, I hate that sort of game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much overplayed. But
You've got to speculate that way, though, mate. I love that. I love that kind of talk.
Oh, okay.
I love to hear that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Man, why not?
All right,
Why
yeah.
not?
I'll jump on your enthusiasm, Russ.
Yeah.
I'll take some of that over here, man. But if people jump on with this aspect, it will completely change things. Completely change things. When I tell you what it is afterwards, you'll be like, oh yeah, that will completely
Right,
change
okay.
things.
I'm looking forward to this.
But I don't want to say it now because actually
that's fine.
I don't want anyone stealing the idea.
Yeah. You've got to be that way, mate.
Yeah.
You've got to be that way.
Because there are platforms out there that are, they're sort of doing things kind of similar, you know, but they're not, I just don't think they're quite, I would say, of course, they're not nailing it. And we're going to nail it. So
Fantastic, man.
So
I mean, if people wanted to get involved now, is version 1 still up and live?
we actually had to take it down,
Okay.
but we let everybody know that was on there. There was a decent amount of people on there. And then we've let people know that they can sign up to the launch for the second one, which is on the website. And yeah, people are actually, we're always shocked, like when people sign up or people, and we're like, oh, that
People love new things. They love new things, and particularly, I think you've touched on it. The buzz with a little community, certainly in the P&D industry, the social media industry. Everyone wants to be the person that tries a new thing first.
Yes.
So anything like that, mate, creating that buzz, teasing little things like that is the way to do it.
Yeah, but not like I really want to create something that has a lot of use. You know, not just because we see all these products come out, don't we? All these next like technology things, these apps that are coming out, and we know all about the lead. Not to point at any particular companies, but we know about these like lead generating businesses and
Just say
and
it
what
as it
they're
is,
doing.
Chris. Say it as it is. Tie you into a big contract, give you fake leads, and rip the arse out of innocent tradespeople.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable actually. I can't. I knew about it because I had my own experience with it, right? So with certain companies, I had my own experience, but I didn't realize the extent of it until I really started talking to people. And I thought I had it bad with what had happened to me, but no way. Like I've seen people locked into like thousands a month, and they can't get out, and they're not getting
Anything.
the leads.
Yeah.
It's like, how's this not illegal?
Yeah.
Isn't this fraud?
You'd think so. I mean, I think if be one, you'd have to fight in court, wouldn't it? You'd have to have proof. You'd have to have evidence, and you know, I would imagine product not fit for purpose would be the way you'd have to go with it. But most people won't do that. You know, most people would be too scared to risk their credit rating and a court appearance and things like that, which is tragic because it's pure exploitation and victimization.
Yeah.
So, and it comes back down to the people in the trades as well. You know, that they're not necessarily the people that are clued up on legalities. You know, they just want to go out there, do an honest day's work, and earn some money to take home to the family. Most people.
Yeah. I suppose. And there is the hope that it generates business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my thing, something that I sort of want to breathe life back into is sort of the old-fashioned but updated, modern network, right? Like your reputation and your network, but giving it a solid digital platform.
Yeah.
Which I just don't think there's anything out there that does that. And I think that way has sort of been neglected, even though I remember my old man, if he didn't have work, he'd be down the phone box with the coins and he'd have his little black book and he'd be ringing around. And if that didn't pay, he'd be down the pub. And eventually, by hook or by crook, he'll have some work, you know, he'd have some work. And so I think that's really like, I just think that that's the way that we can really sort of claim back a lot of ground, is if we are tied into each other a bit better, you know? And I've seen it. I've seen it a lot particularly on some of the social media platforms. I've seen tradespeople come on, and all fucking credit to them. They'll say, look, guys, I'm in a hard spot. You know, I've been solid work for the last 5-10 years, whatever, but I've hit hard times, and you'll just see everyone will rally, you know. Oh, mate, I've got some work. Yeah, I've got some work. And those people come back a month or two later, and they're like, "You guys were amazing," you know. But I think that, like, for me, I don't know. I just get so optimistic about that kind of thing, and I think, yeah, why can't we have that? I think
100%, mate. I think we're craving it. And if I'm honest with you, I think with the rise of AI and stuff like that, I think at the moment anything that promotes community is set to do well, because we live in a society that is more connected yet disconnected than ever.
Yeah.
So anything where you can actually bring people together for networking and people contact, I think will prosper.
And is like real and authentic. Right?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Don't know anymore, do you? Like what you're looking at, whether it's real or not, or whether those people are real. Sometimes we get messages on some of our posts, and you're like, "This can't be a real person."
The way it's gone now, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But I can't remember which one it is. But there's the AI that does videos, isn't it? And you can literally say to it, "Make me a video of, a lion fighting a squirrel, but the squirrel has to win." And it will do it, and it will look perfect. How can you trust anything now? How do you go on? I'll occasionally, as little as possible, but occasionally I get pulled into doom scrolling, like Instagram or whatever it might be. And you flick through, and some of the videos that pop up now, I think, it's got to be AI. I don't know it is, but I just discount it as, but it might not have been.
Yeah.
And it's put that doubt in now, where you think, I'm not sure if that video is real.
Yeah. So this is my gamble, right? Is that when I'm looking at this sort of thing, I think I see two things that are going to happen with AI and the rise of AI and the effect that that's going to have on other industries. I think we're going to see a migration into the trades, and I think we're going to see parts of certain classes that would not normally go to the trades because it might be seen as like beneath. Actually, it's going to become more prestigious. So I hope so. I'm sort of banking on that there's going to be an increase in the amount of people, and so then the need for something like what we're bringing is bigger. But I also think I suppose this is the bigger gamble in some sense. I think social media is going to start to fractionate. So I think it's just so big. And now, like this, what you're talking about is a real problem. And I think social medias are just going to start to niche. I think we've seen it in a couple of pockets, but I think it's going to happen in a big way, that you're going to go to your area for your social media. You're not going to be in this these big bubble worlds.
Well, they're all the same now, Chris, aren't they? That's the thing. Like I've seen it myself. Like you look at how they used to be. Facebook used to be Facebook. Used to be used for a certain thing. Instagram used to be the platform for pictures. That was it. It was where you put pictures and art and pictures of a nice sunset. And TikTok was there for like the stupid videos. But then they've all amalgamated now. So now everyone does everything.
Yeah.
So like Instagram is now full of reels. They never used to exist. Didn't have videos on Instagram before.
No.
But that was TikTok's thing. But now you can post pictures on TikTok. And Facebook do all of it. And you've now got these 3 massive apps now, and they all do exactly the same stuff as each other. There's no, like you said, there's no difference.
Oh yeah,
niche to them.
There's a good story of that. Mark Zuckerberg Meta went to Snapchat. They went to the CEO, the founder of Snapchat, and said, "We want to buy you. Here's a really big offer. We want to buy you, and we want to basically absorb you. And you can still run it, everything, but we're going to absorb you." And Snapchat said no. And Facebook said, "Well, if you don't take the offer, we're just going to steal everything that you do. So either let us buy it all, or we're just going to steal it anyway. And there's nothing you can do about it." And Snapchat, fair play to them, they held their ground, and Meta stole everything, you know. People don't realize actually what how much innovation Snapchat had in social media, stories, like holding the camera thing down to record. All of this is like software that was developed by Snapchat. But yes, it's to your point, like it's all just
the same.
It's all the same, isn't it? And it's all a mix.
You're right. It could be that thing, though. The niche comes in and people start to pick their... At the end of the day, as you'll know, we're tribal creatures. So we seek out tribalism. We seek out our tribe. And we crave to be different, I think. And that's why you get the divisiveness on social media that's promoted as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. I think we could really fall into the rabbit hole, couldn't we?
Oh, God, yeah. We're going to have to call it a day, Chris, because I don't even know what time it is.
No, I know.
It's been going a while.
Completely lost track of time.
You've got to get back to London? Or are you staying up here?
No, I'm going to head back to Kent. So...
Damn.
Yeah. I've got a bit of a drive.
On that note, right. In fairness then, mate, to wrap things up, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you specifically did want to get out there today?
No, I don't think so. I was just really looking forward to talking to you and
it's been a fascinating conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Throwing ideas around. I think you and I are very aligned. It probably is one thing that I would like to mention about Handily as well, is that we are very focused on mental health and mental health in the trades. So it's going to be a big part of everything that we do. And we've got some nice ideas to sort of make that a platform where people can come and get help, get support, that they need.
Love to hear that, mate. I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I have really enjoyed the conversation, to be fair. I love to, we are very alike in a lot of ways, so it's nice to get people's perspective and ideas on things, because as I say, my favourite thing about doing this is learning from people.
Yeah.
So it's been a massive pleasure. Huge thank you again for giving up your time.
Oh, my pleasure.
To everyone listening, if you're still there, thank you for sticking with us. Thank you to the Funky Peach for providing our guest merchandise. If you need any printed workwear, go check out the Funky Peach. Great quality of what those guys are doing over there. And as usual, please like, share, follow. I sound so dull when I say that, but I hate saying it, but I have to say it. Please do all the like, share, follow stuff. And yeah, Chris, again, massive thank you for your time, mate. To everyone listening, thank you, and catch you soon again on the next one.
Cheers.
I really enjoyed the conversation, mate. We are very aligned. That's not actually as long as I thought it was. It's just over 2 hours.